How about Lee Zeldin? Let's give him a big applause back there. Lee is a natural leader. Now I know my place. I'm simply a warm-up act for what's about to come. But I know who you're going to hear from. You see, I left Washington, D.C. yesterday. Yesterday morning early, we traveled across the country. We went down to the border. Isn't it great to have a president who keeps his word? We toured the border and we stood with the Border Patrol who celebrated this president, who believes in the rule of law. We touched down here in Las Vegas sometime about midnight, which would be about 3 a.m. his time before he started. I don't know if he ever slept, but I tell you, he's going to be excited when he comes in. Look, I've spoken to you before. This time it's different. There were challenges then, but I think it's more serious now. Lee touched on a few of them. I want to talk to you today about that. We have some successes, but we have some things that I do not want to see history repeat itself. You see, we are in Las Vegas to celebrate two nations. That's two democracies, united in freedom and dedicated to the responsibility of preserving self-government. Both nations began as a sliver on a great continent. They had a big body of water on one side and is surrounded by enemies who wanted them not to succeed. They were founded by religious people who wanted a place to practice their faith openly, without fear of persecution. And their systems of government draw on both ancient truth and modern political science. I'm speaking of America and Israel. Israel's values are our values. Israel's heritage is our heritage. By having common values, we have created common enemies that stand against us. But at no other time in modern history do we have an administration that understands that greater. But if you look around Israel today, if you go to the north, 20 times more missiles Hezbollah has because of Iran that go further. Syria, Iran now wants to have a permanent base. Hamas, the greatest struggle ever for peace because they will not care for their own people. And they do not understand that peace without freedom is meaningless. But we have one democracy that stands tall. One democracy that will not bend. And one democracy America will always stand with, Israel. But with that challenge that surrounds it, let's see how the world has changed. We have watched Republicans and Democrats alike run for president and make a promise, not only to the American people, but to the world. That what they believe they will show, it just won't be a symbol, it will be where we stand. That Jerusalem is the capital, so that's where our embassy will be. Did you ever question whether Donald Trump would make it happen? Did you ever wonder, would he stand with the others who ran before him and said yes, but then said no? He set a new tone for the world. The world is safer. The world is stronger, and democracy stands even bigger because of President Trump. You know, Lee told a story. One of my jobs and one of my highlights of what I do every 2 years is I join with the new freshmen and we go to Israel. When I became leader, you know the first thing I did? I went to the other side of the aisle. I went to Steny Hoyer. And I said, I know you go with your freshman Democrats and you go to Israel 1 week and we go another week. Why don't we overlap? Why don't we make the debate about Israel not a debate, but a bipartisan strength of values that everybody can see? we do that. And in traveling so, these members learn something they've never seen before. They understand the importance of Golan Heights. They understand why it brings stability and freedom for the region. You know who else understands it? President Trump. I come to you today because those first terms in Congress, the debate of Israel was bipartisan. We stood together when we had our votes. But I've watched a change. I've watched something happen I have not seen in quite some time, and I question if there are parallels in history about it. I watched a new majority maybe actually change their opinion. You see, when Congresswoman Omar tweeted, "It's all about the Benjamins," it had reference to me. The minority party only has one real power on the floor. We can offer what is called an MTR, an amendment to the bill. We put an amendment on the bill because we watch anti-Semitism grow. Grow not just around the region of Israel, but with our allies in France and now in America. So we stood strong, we put it on the floor, and you know what? It was unanimous. But that did not stop the Congresswoman. A few weeks later, she questioned the loyalty of Americans based upon their own faith. We've heard those questions before. I saw members of the Democratic Party stand up and said, "It's over the weekend, we're going to move a resolution. We're going to condemn it. We're going to name her." But by the time we got to Congress, some others in the Democratic Party stood with her, and the Democratic leadership backed down. Not only did they back down, they watered down. Not only did they water down, they wrote it 3 times. They couldn't even muster the ability to name her. That should not be in America. That should not stand today. And I want to tell you, as a Republican leader, I don't pick because it's one side. When I became leader within the first month, I watched a member of our party say something that was derogatory, talked about white supremacy, spoke of things that the party of Lincoln does not stand for. We did not bat an eye. We condemned it. Not only did we condemn it, we convened the steering committee. We removed him from his committee, but not one committee, from all committees, because we stand for what we believe. I think that example should be shown on the other side of the aisle. You know, I've had many experiences traveling to Israel, many experiences traveling with members. And I understand our greatness and our values together. I understand about America, that America is more than a country. America is an idea. That not a place that we have to apologize. That when you listen to Abraham Lincoln and you listen to the Gettysburg Address, you know, 7 years ago, our forefathers brought forth a new nation on this continent, conceived in liberty and dedicated the proposition that we're all equal. He goes on to say, "But if we fail, government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from earth." There's been no other nation conceived like America. One day, I was inside the Capitol. There was a moment like this with senators and members of Congress, and Shimon Peres, he was still president of Israel at the time. We all know that he has passed. We were giving him a medal. He looked out at us and he goes, "You live in the greatest nation that's ever been on the face of the earth." He says, "You know what your greatness comes from? Not what you take, but what you give." that America will give the ultimate sacrifice of life for another country's freedom, and with that freedom becomes human rights. There is a reason why we should lead. There is a reason why, if we hear this type of statement, this type of anti-Semitic comments around the world, we stand up to it. But when the day it happens inside Congress, we should not stay silent, we should not sit back, and we should challenge it every single day that it is there. We just got done with session last week. It is a week that I believe history will write about. It's not a week that we'll be proud of. I do a press conference at the end of every week. I walked into the press conference somewhat depressed, somewhat angry, and that's what I come to you today. You see, the Democrats put a bill on the floor, and again, the Republicans only have one action to take. BDS is anti-Semitism. BDS wants to destroy Israel. We made a motion to recommit, to add an amendment to a bill to condemn BDS. But I want you to understand why. You see, the Senate has acted. The Senate made their most important bill. You get your numbers of your bill, how you put it across. The majority reserves 1 through 10. They made Senate Bill 1 condemning BDS. It passed with 77 votes. The Democratic leadership in the House, to the last I checked, wouldn't even refer it to a committee. Its companion bill won't even be heard in the House. So our only action was to put it on the floor. Every single Democrat but 5 voted against us. Every single Democrat voted for 5, but 5 voted against us. That is not America. That is not our Congress, and we will not stay silent, and you need to join us. Reagan always told us we're one generation away from extinction of losing our freedoms. That we do not get it and pass it along to our children through our bloodline. We fight for it, we protect it, we stand up for it. We should do the same for Israel. I have fear. I have fear about what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. I've watched history repeat itself. I could look to other countries. I could look what's being said in France today, and I see parallels before World War II. I watch a Labour Party in Britain that used to stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel, now call Hezbollah and Hamas. Their own leader of the Labour Party say they're our friends. I watched President John F. Kennedy stand with Israel, understand the importance of Israel, and give a speech for their stability 2 years before he ever ran for president. And where are the Democrat individuals running for president today? Running from AIPAC. I watched after the passing of JFK that in Israel they built a monument to him. It's a fallen tree that shows a life cut short, but it shows the root of the relationship so strong that it still stands. But I watched the Democrat running for president take a different path. Have you seen what Ken Livingstone currently tweeted. Ken Livingstone was a part of the Labour Party. He was the first member of the Labour Party elected mayor of London. He ran for the Prime Minister, was beaten by Blair. His tweet just last week, "It's not anti-Semitic to hate the Jews of Israel." He no longer calls himself a Labour Party member. He calls himself a Democrat socialist. I have concerns because I see people within our own Democratic Party in the House no longer call themselves a Democrat, but call themselves a Democrat socialist. If you were ever in Washington, I want you to come to my office. I want you to see the paintings that are on my wall. I see members in the House. They've been there. They've seen them. I believe in a purpose-driven life. I have Lincoln that is painted in black and white. The greatest challenge ever to our Constitution was the Civil War. I have Ronald Reagan standing behind us in color. Ronald Reagan would tell us, and smiling, if you believe your policies bring people more freedom and liberty, be happy. There's no reason to be angry. You want people to know what you're drinking. You want people to crave what you understand. But when I look out at you, it reminds me what is in our conference room. It is the portrait 8 feet by 6 feet of Washington crossing the Delaware. You have all seen this painting before. Do you realize that painting was not painted by an American, but an immigrant? An immigrant who had lived in America but went back to Germany. He was not there on Christmas 1776 when they crossed the Delaware. He didn't paint it until 1850, 1851. There was no iPhone to take a picture or a camera. So he painted it for one purpose only: to inspire Germany to have a revolution that believed in the democracy and freedoms that America and Israel hold true today. The stability that drives the world. Now, he gets it wrong, historians will tell you, because the Delaware looks like the Rhine. But we give him a break for that, right? He gets the boat wrong. Historians will tell you that Washington crossed in a barge or a Durham boat. He just takes a rowboat. He puts 13 people in a rowboat. Why would he put 13? 13 colonies, right? But he only shows you 12 faces. He has Washington standing up in a ceremonial uniform, not a battle uniform, with his hand on his chest, crossing the Delaware. We know that's not true. But if you look at Washington and say, that man is so stoic, I would follow him anywhere. I bet he's never lost a battle. But history tells us we had never won one yet. That was our first victory when we surprised the Hessians. But what I want you to look at, and I want you to see when you go home and Google this picture to see if I'm telling you the truth, I want you to look at the second person in the boat. He's Scottish. Or the person directly from across from in the green jacket, he's African American. Or you come down the boat in the midsection in the red is a woman, in the very back is a Native American. Now, I cannot tell you if they're in a boat that night, but to this young immigrant who had lived in America, that's who he believed would be in the boat. Now, the second to last person is a farmer, and he has a hand across his face. When I look at you, I think of that hand. You see, what the artist was saying, here we are as a young nation, much like what I started my speech on, a sliver of a creation of a country that had a water of body on one side and enemies that did not want us to succeed surrounding us. That we are a young nation, having never won before, willing to risk everything for the idea of freedom and liberty. Here's a hand, would you get in and join us? It's as true today as it was then, but the challenge is different. The challenge is unique. Yeah, you're going to get excited hearing the president talk. We're going to celebrate his ability to stand with Israel. But it cannot end today. I want you to go home and challenge your city councils, challenge your states. They should be moving legislation against BDS. They should be standing with Israel. They should understand the importance of the American-Israeli support. I will make this pledge to you. I will not stop fighting. I will not stop moving the resolutions. I will not stop condemning what I see becomes anti-Semitic. I will stand and make us stronger, but I need you to stand with us. Anybody in this room that wants to join with us, you are welcome. Anybody that wants to get in the boat and cross it, you're welcome to join. We've got somebody like George Washington. We've got somebody who understands what the greatness of this country means. We've got somebody who is fearless. President Trump didn't go do a study to know the importance of Golan Heights. President Trump didn't go and call the world leaders. He knew the world would be stronger. President Trump didn't have to ask Congress if he should move the embassy. He made the promise and he kept it. President Trump will always stand with Israel, and so will we. "2020 is close at hand. It's going to be a battle of socialism versus freedom. You're not going to be sitting down and wondering where you should stand. You're going to be in the boat. We're going to win. President Trump is going to get 4 more years. The Senate will stand again and hold even a stronger majority. And the House will no longer have a speaker called Pelosi. So join with us on this journey. It's every day. God bless you, and God bless America and Israel as we stand together.